Awesome. Thank you everybody for coming today. I'd just like to begin by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people as the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we're meeting today. And I would also like to pay my respect to their ancestors and elders, past, present and future, and also acknowledge that we live on stolen land, that I live on stolen land. It's my total pleasure today to welcome Georgia Banks.
Yes, it is.
And it's just so lovely to have everyone here as well on this final day of Remains to be Seen. And it's going to be lovely chatting to Georgia and hearing more about their process of conceiving the work and bringing it into fruition, and a little bit as well about the kind of future of the project as well. And you know, this show has been a really exciting one to sort of see come to life and to sit, and most of the Gertrude team feel quite confident now that we've got this full script down. Down
dramatic reenactments after.
So maybe at the end there'll be a competition to show how much we've got it in our minds. But it's been such a pleasure sitting here and taking in all of the kind of elements of the work. So I thought, Georgia, it might be helpful just to begin by asking you a little bit about what drew you to performance as a medium to begin with. What was it that kind of grabbed your interest?
I think probably just my extremely dramatic personality. I actually did my first performance in the first year of my undergrad. I went to Sydney College and I was in the SPI Department Sculpture Performance Installation, and we had these performance nights. So that's where I was sort of introduced to the idea of performance art. Probably hadn't heard of it before that. From Broken Hill, I don't know, I think the only travelling show we got was the Archibald, so I wasn't super across performance art. And so I was 18 or 19 when I did my first performance work, and I laid on the ground and let people spit on me. It was called You Are Invited to Spit on Georgia Banks at Your Own Discretion. Something I've noticed is my obsession with inserting my full name into my
I was
artwork.
going to go into that later on, maybe.
And yeah, it was just, I don't know, I never stopped. I never got over it. I don't know, it just made sense to me to make work and experience work through my body and through my own self. I don't know, for me it feels like the most authentic way to make work for me. Not saying everyone has to do it. You should. No.
And that extended into VCA and to postgrad and your honours thesis as well. Is that right? Or MFA was it?
Yeah. So during the masters, I was doing quite like physical performance works, lots of bloodletting work. So really endurance focused physical performances, like being crucified. It's always the one I use for reference. And then sort of shifted into, over time, this still endurance work. Like I competed in beauty pageants for a year, and I often say I would rather be crucified again than do that again, just for reference. Yeah. When it comes to endurance, a year-long performance of like total physical and social transformation. So yeah, there's definitely an endurance element through my practice. And this work as well, though maybe not so clearly, this work will go on now for the rest of my life. Applications are open for this work until I die. So I've basically signed myself up for an endurance performance of admin.
What fun.
I know, yay.
I wondered if we could dig a little bit deeper into that kind of shift, I think, because you mentioned briefly, previous work and this kind of change towards this focus of kind of, I guess in my mind, what I think of as kind of performative environments of beauty pageants and of reality dating programs. And so the pageant work, she's beauty, she's grace, and
she'll probably eat your face.
Yeah, and then a four-letter word which came after that.
Yes.
What was your sort of, and you've mentioned sort of the endurance aspect of these works. I wondered if you might talk a little bit more about, what kind of compelled that sort of shift for you in your practice from those sort of earlier works to, the pageant work.
Yeah, I don't know. I've reflected on this a bit, and I kind of make work with my gut a lot, and then sort of try to work out why I did something later. I don't have a particularly sort of like cerebral thought process when it comes to making work. I sort of operate on instinct. It was just where my natural sort of my interests took me. So doing these really physical works, and then moving into these social, or what I like to call guerrilla social engagement works. I just did it. Actually, the beauty pageant work started as a joke that I made in my early 20s, and then just came back into my head one day as this sort of, I didn't realise how intense it was going to be when I started it as well. I was like, oh yeah, this will be like an interesting experience. I guess that's it for me. It's all about the experience. Like, just sort of, what will it feel like to do something like this? What would it feel like to be crucified? What would it feel like to completely ruin your life for a year? And now I know, yeah.
Because I guess that early work, there's like an overtly visceral quality to it, but it seems like with, She's Beauty, She's Grace, it's, perhaps it's not sort of as immediately obvious, but that pain was extended across a long period of time, and it took maybe like less, visible sort of, channels. But
I don't know if you saw me during that performance, you might say differently. It was quite a dramatic sort of shift, I suppose, in my appearance. Like I lost a lot of weight, had very long blonde hair, or like it wasn't just during the pageants either. That performance was every day of my life for the better part of a year. Every time I stepped out of the house, I was performing that work. And so it was a real sort of shift in how I moved through the world for that period of time. The way people responded to me was different, and so the way that I started responding to myself and feeling about myself changed a lot. There was a point, a sort of tipping point in that performance where I kind of lost a sense of who I was. Like at the beginning of the performance, when I was doing all of these things, I felt like a different person, and then there was a point in that performance where I felt like a different person when I wasn't doing them, and I was really scared actually towards the end of that performance that I wouldn't know how to find my way back to myself. That's dark. Sorry. That's fucked up.
No, at the end of a previous artist talk quite a few months ago, I kind of finished on the point of time comes for all of us, and everyone groaned, and it was like quite a bleak point. So I shared.
Well, death, yes, death will come for us all, except for me. I will never die.
You mentioned guerrilla social engagement, and you sort of touched, I think, a little bit on the kind of practical, how that plays out of you kind of, yes, perhaps in those earlier works you were sort of, that there was a performance and it was going to happen at this time, and it was going to happen for this period of time, and this is what was going to happen. But here it's sort of much more expanded. Are you able to dig into that a little bit more about what guerrilla sort of social engagement means for you in a performative sense? Yeah,
so I guess with the pageant performance in particular, there were people who saw me every day, not saw me every day for me, there were people that saw me who, I was just somebody walking down the street, or I was someone buying a coffee from them, and I knew I was performing for a year of my life, but a lot of people didn't. And so I suppose it's the idea that people are seeing a performance without realizing or knowing that they're seeing a performance. And they probably will never know. Do you know what I mean? Like, there are lots of experiences that I had during that performance that I speak about. like, oh, and then this one day, this person chased me down the street to try to get my phone number. And that person is now a part of my performance practice, but they don't know that. They were just some guy who wanted my phone number. They did not get it.
Oh. And then this kind of shift, I think, a four-letter word, and
yes.
and then that as kind of, I guess, a bridge almost into Remains to be Seen.
Yeah.
So four-letter word, and this interest in sort of reality dating TV kind of formats.
Yes.
Did you want to talk a little bit about four-letter word before we talk more about Remains
Yeah,
to be Seen?
for sure. So four-letter word was a performance that I did where I auditioned for a popular reality TV dating show. I almost got on. I got down to like the final 50 applicants from 10,000. It was an extremely arduous process, very long process of auditioning. So lots of videos, lots of personality questions, so many personality questionnaires, STI tests, psychological clearances, police checks, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of fun stuff just to like do with your time. My interest in reality TV, I guess, came, well, where did it come from? I like to think of reality TV as the contemporary Colosseum. It's sort of a place where people come together to feel, to watch people suffer publicly and with no level of social consequence. So it's something that's existed in lots of sort of iterations of humanity, like watching witches get burned at the stake, watching people get put in the stocks and throwing tomatoes at them, watching gladiators fight until they die. I mean, no one's, you know what, actually I was about to say no one's dying on reality TV, but I don't know that that's true. I know that people have killed themselves after going on reality TV shows because of the level of public backlash that's occurred. There's a sort of dehumanizing thing that happens when you go on a reality TV show, and I'm extremely guilty of this myself when I talk about people on reality TV shows. For example, you refer to them as characters. And they're not characters, they're real people with real lives, but they're turned into characters through the sort of process of producing and editing. Something that really interests me about reality TV is that when you go on the show, or when someone goes on the show, they have their experience and they don't know which character they're going to be assigned until they're watching the show at the same time that you and I are watching the show. And I just can't even imagine what that would be like to be on a show, for example, like The Bachelor, and then you go home and you're watching it and you've been edited as a villain. And to just be experiencing that in real time with the rest of the country, and then all of a sudden you're getting bullied on the internet and people are talking about how much they hate you and how much they hope you die. I know somebody from Married at First Sight had to get put into a safe house because they got so many death threats after their season aired. Like, it's got real life consequences, but we don't treat it like it does. I guess we don't treat these people like they have real, or like our actions towards them have real life consequences. Yeah.
And I guess it kind of comes back to your comment of kind of it as kind of a contemporary Colosseum, is that sort of distance, that spectatorial kind of relationship where you feel like you're watching something which is purely for entertainment, and that you're sort of feeling.
Which we're all encouraged to do. It's all a part of the way that these shows are made and given to us is to watch them through that lens. Yeah. And I also think they're really we watch reality TV with like a quite low level of criticality. It's entertainment, it's something you watch when you come home. And so it's like, I mean, reality TV is often quite focused on pushing a certain sort of pretty conservative agenda that has real life impacts. Yeah.
I guess for me, I'm curious to know your thoughts, it seems like with this video work that, that your critical engagement comes across through parody. Do you see it
this work,
yes,
right,
yeah.
Sorry, I'm still talking about a four-letter word.
No, of course. Yeah, but maybe, sorry, if we can shift. But I was curious because there is in this work as well such a attentiveness to the tropes of reality TV, which I enjoyed the rattlesnake sample that's throughout as well, that you often hear in the background of, you know, RuPaul's Drag Race or something like that, when someone says something salacious. Or
yeah, the music's huge. It's a huge part of sort of like shaping your experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That rapid violin kind of soundtrack,
Yeah.
the kind of suddenly sort of sped up footage. You know, you show that that you're a student, a very close student of reality TV as a format.
There was someone, Abby, sorry, I just interrupted
No,
you.
that's okay. I was just going to say, like, do you see this as sort of a parody, and was that kind of going into the production and the writing as kind of the clear kind of outcome of what you wanted to achieve with the work? Was sort of a parodic tone?
I don't know. So...
Because it's funny. I mean, it's just so
I'm
funny.
Hilarious.
But yeah.
That's so funny. This work, so basically after my process of auditioning for this reality TV show, I was doing an artist talk at CCP, and somebody asked me, why do you think so many people audition for reality TV shows when it's like pretty well documented these days that it could low-key ruin your life? And I was just like, yeah, you know, I had just gone to a talk by this research team called Death Tech, and they had been talking about this concept of the social death, which is that you have a second death the last time that somebody that remembers you also dies. And so that was in my mind, and as I was just like spitballing in real time at my artist talk, I was like, yeah, I think that people maybe audition for reality TV shows because they're terrified of dying. Everybody's afraid of dying, everybody's afraid of being forgotten. Like, it's all sort of like here in us, this fear that we sort of like carry around. And maybe, I mean, making art is a way to try to prevent that also, any kind of public output. And I suppose social media and reality TV are almost presented as these shortcuts into being public, being in a really public place, and yeah, not being forgotten. And so that's sort of where the concept for this work came from, is that there's an inherent link between the desire to live a greatly public life through, for example, being on a reality TV show, and us not wanting to die. So I decided to turn my death into a way to live forever.
Insert evil laughter, yeah.
And the parody, I mean, it just, that's when you watch reality TV, so watching the first 10 to 15 minutes of every season of The Bachelor and being like, these are all identical. And there is something really cheesy when you start getting into it. Like, you watch, for example, there's a moment in, not the most recent season of The Bachelor, the one before, with the astrophysicist. Is that what it was? Astronomer. I'm a Gemini.
Yes.
Yeah. Where it's like he's in a pool. It's quite similar to the shot here. He's in a pool, but it's like from this side, from the back, from the front. The way that the angles, I think once you get into it and you start breaking it down, like, it is shot really cheesy. It is like almost a parody of itself. I don't think you could make something in sincerity without it almost being a little bit.
Yeah, and it's interesting
funny.
how often, especially with these shows, that there's a consistency in terms of editing and of angles, as you're sort of saying, and that when they try to toy with that, you become uncomfortable because we want the predictability of the format to an extent.
There's like a real formula to the way that they introduce each Bachelor and Bachelorette is almost exactly the same when you watch them all back to back. Like, I just wrote down the key shots: stroking the dress, shoes coming out of the car, drinking tea, looking out of a window, water, so much like water and romance. Apparently it's like, that's how you do it. How do you make something romantic? Put them in a fucking pool of water, a body of water, done. This is sexy, this is romance, this is love, water is love. I don't know, but like, yeah. So yeah, it is really, really formulaic, which I think I hadn't even realized until I started making this work. And, you know, obviously I've watched quite a bit of reality TV with a high level of criticality because it's an interest in my practice. But until I was like, okay, I'm going to make something that looks like this reality TV show, I didn't realize just how identical they all are.
And I know we've spoken about guerrilla social engagement before, but you know, preceding this show, there was a billboard as well that many people, I think, hopefully saw on Melbourne Road. Did you want to talk about the importance of that kind of preceding, you know, this, and how it kind of fits into kind of the same sort of tropes of this?
Yeah, that was really quite lucky. I got asked to be in a show with artists on billboards, and I made a billboard for this work. It says Georgia Banks in Remains to be Seen. The billboard was up before this show opened, and there was sort of no information around what this meant, what Georgia Banks my name again. Anyway, what this means, what Georgia Banks in Remains to be Seen was. And so I had so many people messaging me being like, is this real? Is this a reality TV show? Are you The Bachelor? Because, I don't know, because the roads, people didn't get that Remains to be. Anyway, and even I had someone being like, is this a new reality TV show? Like, I keep Googling Georgia Banks Remains to be Seen reality TV show, but I can't find anything about it. Like, when is it airing? And I'm like, never and always. So yeah, it was really, really great to have that go up before this show opened, because it was almost like the way that you would sort of advertise an upcoming reality TV show. Yeah.
And you're also engaging the audience, you know, as part of this kind of expanded performance almost.
Yeah, and I think there is a level of ambiguity around the work. Like, is this a real show? Is this going to be a show? Maybe, I don't know, actually, because, you know, with applications now being open for the remainder of my life, I suppose this work could go in many different directions over the next, let's say, 40 to 50 years. I don't know. Depends on how well I take care of myself. Also, it's not totally up to me when I die, is it? Nobody gets to decide that. I could die tomorrow.
What about, can we talk about Georgia Banks? Can we talk about, okay, because when I was like looking, I was watching it again, obviously, throughout the day while I was here, and, you know, you name yourself in the video.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, you know, going back to what you were saying earlier about how people see, you know, people on reality TV as characters rather than real people. How do you see self in relation to this work? Is it a character? Are you playing a character? Is there an element of self-portraiture to it? And you can be very reluctant to say no to that, because I feel like that's a bit, you know.
It's for sure the closest I've come to playing a character. Like, when I did the reality TV audition work, A Four-Letter Word, people kept asking if I was performing a character during the audition process, and I wasn't. I was pretty true to who I am. I think the only decision that I made to sort of like deter from myself is that I didn't tell them that I am sober, because no one's going to put a sober person on a reality TV show, because drunk people are easier to manipulate. Like, that's just facts. And same with the pageant performance. People are always like, oh, is this a character that you played during the performance? And for that performance, the only thing that I sort of like, well, a couple of things that I was dishonest about were my age, because I was too old to compete in pageants. I'd already aged out of the pageant scene by like a number of years. And I think I signed a couple of contract things that said that there were no sexual images of me that had been produced, which is obviously untrue. Like, if any of you have seen any of my work, no nudity, like there's no nude images of me that have ever been produced. And I was like, yeah, of course not. Obviously, no. But it wasn't about playing a character. Neither of those works were about playing a character. I guess it was about putting myself in those situations to see how that would affect me. And I suppose over the experience of doing the pageant performance, I became more of a like I changed as a person, so I maybe appeared to be playing more of a character, but I don't know that it was necessarily about, well, the intention wasn't to create a character and then to go into these situations. It was to go in as myself and to see what happened, but also, I suppose, in prioritizing certain things during those performances that I wouldn't normally prioritize in my day-to-day life. It's like a character that's within yourself, like you're taking a part of your personality that maybe you haven't given a ton of attention to in the past and going, take the wheel for a year, let's see what happens. I don't know if I've actually answered your question.
No, I think it does, and I think it's like that kind of, the ambiguity is kind of the important point in the format of these sort of programs, is that they're like, be yourself is the kind of the thing that's constantly demanded of people on this show, but they're accentuated and exaggerated characters as well. So, but it sort of seems to kind of flip on the edge of, you know, there. So, no, I think that was great. I wondered if, as well as sort of a way to kind of segue into also opening up to audience questions, whether, because time's just flying, if we could talk a little bit about death tech, and I'm like super interested in how you sort of came to know of their research, what they're interested in, and how that's relevant to this work.
Yes, so Death Tech are a collective of anthropologists across the University of Melbourne and Oxford College, and they all sort of work with different aspects of the future of body disposal and funerary practices and death. Death, it's in the name. I saw them, like I said, I saw them speak at a panel talk, and they were a kind of impetus for my thinking around the relationship between death and reality television. So as I was coming up with the idea for this project, they happened to have a call out they were commissioning. They were looking to commission 5 artists to create work about the future of body disposal, and I applied with this work, which had been inspired by them, which was kind of funny. And so they, I was one of the commissions, and so this work is made sort of in collaboration with Death Tech, and they're having an exhibition of those artists' works in July. So that will be five artists' work all around the concept of the future of death and body disposal.
And I hope this isn't too much of a big question, but
we'll see. Can
we talk about the future of death and dying and memorialization? Because I think the thing, I see this show a little bit like an iceberg. You know, we're sort of sitting here on this sort of tip with the video and with the website and this installation. But there is such a vastness to it that's kind of beneath the surface. Sorry to use I feel like the iceberg metaphor is pretty tired at this point, but I think it's relevant, like, because there's so much that is going to happen from this point. The website is live, will remain live. You'll continue to receive applications. What is the sort of future of this project? But also, what do you think this has to say about sort of, memorializing, in the 21st century?
I mean, it's interesting because, like, one of the things around this concept of the social death is that it's changed exponentially with the sort of like, with social media, and online memorialization is a huge thing now. We leave these digital footprints kind of forever. There's a lot of like debris on the internet. There's also AI that's being built around death. For example, there's a Twitter bot. You can sign up to use this Twitter bot, and it's an algorithm that takes all of your previous tweets and uses them to create new content that sounds like things that you would say, and you can set it to tweet after you've passed away. So you can continue to tweet from your grave for however long you've paid for your subscription, I suppose. So maybe only the wealthy never die. I don't know how much it costs. I don't have Twitter. So yeah, I mean, an online memorialization, and I've read a couple of articles by people in Death Tech that are talking about like the way that funerals are changing now to introduce technology like gravestones with QR codes built into them and stuff, so that you can scan your QR code and go straight to their online memorial page. So it is moving into this more digital space, which is super interesting. And yeah, this project, I guess, is applications are open for the rest. So I'm just sort of creating also more digital clutter in a sense as well. So I have all of these applications that I'll be collecting for the remainder of my life, which also hopefully, I mean, will create this archive of attitudes towards death and dying and reality TV. And I've also kind of like linked myself in this weird way to so the project is about me not dying. So it's almost like I am going to continue my social life through this other person after I have physically died. So I'm basically piggybacking off of them to be like, help me live longer in the social sense. But also the project's success kind of hinges on my success as an alive person. Just as an alive person. Like the, you know, because the applications are open forever now, or until I die, which is forever for me, I guess. There's sort of a couple of ways that it could go, right? Like if I, in 5 or so years, drop out of the art world and everyone's like, Georgia Banks, who the fuck is that? Why'd she always put her own name in their fucking work? Like, why did they do that? No. So then I won't get any applications. And the people that have applied now, if when I die, one of them gets a call being like, hey, you won, they'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't know who that is. I don't remember this, or I don't want to do this. Whereas if I remain in the public realm and in the public eye as an artist, then I'm more likely to continue to receive applications. And so I guess it's almost like I'm trying to create my own fanfare around the work in order for the work to succeed. So the success of the work is linked to my success. The success of my death is linked to the success of my life. There we go. Got there.
Yeah. Maybe as my final point, and then we can open up to some questions. Oh my God, I didn't turn around. There's so many people behind me. I was curious about the kind of taboo quality of the work, and I think that's kind of part of the power of the work. And you know, we've talked about kind of, you know, the fame and extending kind of your sort of social life or the social memory of you beyond your death. But I'm also curious and conscious as well to acknowledge that I feel like there's a social good that I think that's the work is trying to do, which is around normalizing some sort of feelings towards death and to impermanence in some way. I think the thing, and what I mean by that is that humour in the work around the subject of death is disarming and helpful, I think. Just today, there were 2 sort of younger kind of maybe first year looking kind of artists who had come in, and they were sitting down and applying and just laughing as they filled out the application form to be, you know, executors of your funeral. So, I mean, I'm curious, that relationship of humour to this such a sensitive subject.
I think I'm just naturally very funny, and so in anything I say is going to be...
And so modest too.
Yeah,
you know,
it's true. It's true. I think, I don't know. We're all going to die. Everybody dies. But now, I don't have to. It's from the video. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, death is scary, but like, we can laugh about it as well, right? Like, yeah.
I think it's important.
I agree.
I think that might be maybe a good point for us to finish on, but it would be great if anyone has any questions that you'd like to ask Georgia while we have the artist here with us.
I've got a boring logistics question.
Mm,
So how do you,
I'll try.
How do you choose the lead applicant? Do you have one always running? Like, what if you got hit by a bus tomorrow and haven't
Yeah.
decided?
So there is always a recipient named in my living will, but the winner won't be announced until the day that I die. Applicants are also welcome to apply as many times as they choose over the course of their own life. So if you applied tomorrow and then in 10 years' time you wanted to apply again, or if you wanted to apply every day for the rest of your life, do your own little endurance performance, feel free. So there is always somebody named, but nobody knows who that person is. So yeah, in case I die unexpectedly, there is a recipient named, because I walk in front of buses all the time. A la Regina George.
Mean Girls reference, love it. Any further questions? Thank you for that. Yeah, the question here.
What do you want to achieve by doing this after you're dead? What they're going to learn or receive or what?
The recipient
Yeah.
will receive complete control over all aspects of the disposal of my body and my funeral and the disposal of my estate.
Were you asking more why, or?
I was wondering, like, what makes me interested, for example, to apply for that? Or what's the point of the subject is death, or are you scared of death?
Yeah, sometimes. Some days I am. Some days I'm not. Some days I desire it.
Yeah, I think basically I just wanted to know what the people after you're dead, sorry, what they, like, what they're going to do with that, or what they're getting, or what's happening.
So why would somebody want to apply? I suppose the idea is that they would want to apply for their own selfish reasons, such as trying to create their own physical proximity to success or being known and remembered. So I suppose the whole project is about this desire to sort of push yourself into the public realm. Yeah. And so yeah, it's a symbiotic relationship where we both use each other. Everyone takes advantage of everyone equally.
I wonder at that fame thing as well, because anecdotally, the people who I've noticed at least from being here, have been applying, have often been younger as well. So I'm curious that sort of fame aspect as kind of an impulse for applying.
Well, yeah. Also, you have to outlive me, so it makes sense that you would apply if you were younger.
This is true. Yeah.
Not to be rude.
Also, yeah. Also, applications are open, as we said, for the rest of
Yes. So potentially
in your own spare time, if you feel more comfortable with applying, then feel free.
Yeah. So it's just a website. You can apply at home. The website is now open for the foreseeable future.
Hannah, do you have a question?
Thanks so much for your talk. I came on a couple minutes late, so I might have missed if you covered this, but what struck me about this work and the work, some of your other works, is the way they kind of like co-opt really stereotypical experiences of like cis female gender stuff, and the way they kind of like almost, really embrace that. And that's something I'm really interested in, kind of, like sex and intimacy and gender and representations of that. Like, I'm always looking for stuff that can fucking help me rip out of this prison of it in some ways. Put it lightly, but like, I wondered if you could speak to that, because you're approaching it in such a different way to me, and I'm really curious about like what's drawn you to use those kind of tropes, if you will, or yeah.
How do you approach it?
Like, I want to see stuff that's not in culture, so I think that's how I approach it. And I also work with abstract sculpture, so I use a lot of found garments and old clothes, so I can speak to like histories of different femininities and lived experiences. And I think part of that was having a really awful teacher in third year who, the way that he looked at my body in my performance and photographic work was really unsafe. So I kind of went back to working with textiles, which was my kind of understanding of the world as a costume maker. And yeah, that's how I did it. But I wondered what kind of compelled you to like really
Well, it's interesting because it is heavily gendered, the work, but it's not how I choose to move through the world. Well, it was for the period of the performances, I suppose. I guess it's interesting to choose to play along for such an extended period of time. I mean, for example, during the pageant performance, I really noticed how differently the world responded to me because I felt like I entered this social contract to be very feminine for that period of time. And it's something I think about a lot, the way in which just society doesn't really give us a ton of options, or hasn't given us a ton of options about how we get to be in the world. We're always being perceived. I don't feel like I'm answering this question particularly well.
I wonder if you had like a language, anything around what do you like pretending to be this idea of a woman, or
No, I don't think any of my work is about doing things that I like. I feel like all of my practice is me just like on some weird subconscious level going, what can I do to make myself miserable? This, yeah. Like, what can I do to put myself through? I don't know why. Probably something I should talk to my therapist about. But a lot of my practice seems to be about me trying to find the least comfortable position I can put myself in, or what can I do to cause the most pain, which started with physical pain and then moved into this sort of like emotional, social realm. I mean, yeah, it's painful. It's painful to sort of ignore yourself for a year, to ignore your own sense of self, and to ignore who you feel like you are, or the things that you have chosen to focus on, and then be like, no, I'm going to do this other thing for a year because that's what we all feel pressure to conform to certain levels of gender performance, and it's not something that I'm particularly interested in doing in my own life, which is why I decided to do it in my practice, because again, I am just like low-key constantly going, how can I fuck myself up?
It's almost like, because we know and respect you as a intelligent person with agency in the world, it almost then becomes more uncomfortable to see this image of you that I would normally like be looking at people like that who've chosen to do that in like a reality TV context, or almost becomes more uncomfortable for me to watch.
Yeah, which is interesting as well. Like people often ask me like, oh, were the other people that competed in the pageants, were they all like super annoying and stupid and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, they were just people. We're all just people. And moving through the world during the pageant performance, for example, I would go to exhibition openings, and I would feel really uncomfortable. I would feel really unwelcome. Once somebody asked me if I was lost. I wasn't. I mean, I was emotionally, but not physically. I meant to be there. And friends as well would come up to me and be like, oh my God, when you walked into the gallery, I was like, who is that? What are they doing here? And then I realized it was you. And it's funny. I mean, when you get down to it, a lot of it is signaling, the way that we use this sort of coded visual language to signal to people that we're like-minded. And so my visual signaling was all over the place. It was haywire. Haywire is that a thing? Okay.
I wonder if maybe just, if it's okay with everyone, just to say thank you so much to Georgia for an amazing talk. And if there are any other additional questions, I'm sure Georgia would feel comfortable answering them afterwards. But thank you so much, everybody, for coming along and listening.